Welcome back my friends. Today's video is going to be one of the most important video I've made thus far. So before I begin, you can support me by giving me a like on this channel and subscribing to my channel. I've seen people working their entire lives, trying to support their parents, finance their house and their cars, and also their child student debt. They end up having their time strapped and never truly free from anything, be it their work, money or time. Even if they are financially free, they don't have the freedom to really do whatever they want. They don't have movement freedom. Very few can truly say that, alright, I'm going to pack up, travel and explore other countries tomorrow. The system is designed to enslave you with debt, to keep you working and get very busy with life until you don't have the time to think about what's the meaning of all this. I've been thinking about this for quite a while. Like, what does all this mean? Does having a lot of money and buying expensive stuff to impress people I don't even care the way to go about living my life? What I appreciate is time freedom. Accumulating wealth helps me with that. In today's society, most people do not understand what is money. And hence today, I'll educate you on the topic on money. When we think about money, we think about this paper currency that we can use to buy our own stuff. We don't question about what money is fundamentally, and we don't question about the problem with paper or fiat currency. So what is money? Money is supposed to be a medium of exchange. If we don't have a standardized way of exchanging our goods and services, imagine trading 12 eggs for 1 milk. 4 cartons of milk for 1 watermelon. You'll be chaos having to memorize thousands of exchange rate for all the different goods and services. Secondly, money is a store of value. It can be used to exchange, retrieve, and saved at a later time. Most importantly, it should retain its purchasing power in the future. So lastly, money is a unit of account. It allows us to interpret prices, costs and profits so that an entity can measure and monitor its own performances. It can measure GDP, drive market economy towards efficiency. From the definition of what money is, fiat money has definitely failed being a store of value. It may be relatively stable during peace times, but whenever there's a major financial crisis such as the one we saw in 2008 and the 2020 pandemic crisis, our economies are so interconnected that if one entity falls, everything will collapse together like a domino. To prevent extreme damage to our economy, government have to print money out of thin air to save the economy, at the expense of eroding the value of the monies that people have worked so hard to save up. You may think that the fiat currency is well designed and well thought of, but we'll be here to debunk this myth.
Let's look at Euro for example. The European Union was created after they were devastated by World War II and after centuries of war. It was created to integrate the different European economy with one another, giving free movement to goods, services and capital. The purpose was to make the economy so integrated that there wasn't any incentive to go to war with each other. The EU and its members enjoyed peace and prosperity. However, there was a lot of differences in culture, economy output, as well as economy policies. However, they were all using the same currency. So what problem does that make? Let's take Germany for example. They are very disciplined in handling their state's economy. They are hardworking and produce good products. The government do not overspend on tax revenue and they have good credits to borrow from investors through government bonds. Greece on the other hand overspends their tax revenue just to get re-elected. They do not have a good GDP and they use the EU and the Euro's credit worthiness to borrow over and over again. This created what we know as a Euro crisis, and the European Central Bank has to create a fund over $200 billion and create other drastic measures to tide through this crisis.
The first US dollar was created by the Federal Reserve in 1913 to respond to the unreliability and instability of the currency system based on banknotes issued by individual banks. At that time, the US economy had recently just overtaken Britain's economy as the world's largest economy. However, Britain was still the centre of world commerce, with the majority of transactions conducted in British pounds. Also at the time, most of the developed countries pegged their currencies to gold in order to create stability in currency exchanges. However, when World War I broke out in 1914, many countries abandoned the gold standard so that they could pay for their military expenses with paper money which devalued their currencies. 3 years into the war, Britain, which has steadfastly held onto the gold standard, maintains its position as the world's leading currency, found itself having to borrow money for the first time. The United States became the lender of choice for many countries that were willing to buy US dollar denominated bonds. In 1919, Britain was finally forced to abandon the gold standard, which decimated the bank accounts of international merchants who traded in pounds. By then, the dollar had replaced the pounds as the world's leading reserve. As it did in World War One, the United States entered World War II much later after the war has begun. So before it entered the war, the United States served as the Allies' main proprietor of weapons, supplies and goods, collecting much of its payment in gold. By the end of the war, the United States owned the vast majority of the world's gold. This precluded a return of gold standard by all of the countries that had depleted their gold reserves. In 1944, delegates from 44 allied countries met in Bretton Woods to come up with a new system to manage foreign exchange that would not put any country at a disadvantage. It was decided that the world currencies couldn't be linked to gold, but they could be linked to the US dollar, which was linked to gold. Instead of gold reserves, other countries have accumulated the US dollars, and they need a place to store their US dollars, and hence they started buying US Treasury bonds, which they considered to be a safe store of money. The demand for Treasury securities, coupled with deficit spending, needed to finance the Vietnam War, and the Great Society domestic programs caused the United States to flood the market with paper money. With growing concerns over the stability of dollars, the countries began to convert dollars reserves into gold. The demand for gold was such that President Richard Nixon was forced to intervene and delink dollar from gold, which led to the floating exchanges rate as we exist today. Although there have been periods of stagflation, which is defined by high inflation and high employment, the US dollars has remained the world's reserve currency. So in conclusion, the US dollars has always been backed by gold. It was because of extreme circumstances like the Great Depression and World War that has forced the United States to drop the gold standard.
So why was gold money? Why was gold being used as money since the dawn of civilization? Weirdly enough, in all of the atomic structure in the known universe, only gold was ideally suited to be money. Let's examine the periodic table to see why was gold chosen to be money. Helium, argon and neon was definitely out because they are gas at room temperature. Mercury and bromine, liquid at room temperature, not suitable to be money. Other elements such as arsenic are poisonous. Magnesium, calcium and sodium dissolve in water and explode in contact. Good to save for a rainy day, but not when your money dissolves in rain. Uranium and plutonium is radioactive and you will not want to hold money that may cause you cancer. Iron, copper and lead do not make the final cut because they rust and corrode. Aluminium too flimsy as coin. Titanium too hard to melt with ancient equipment. So basically, it leaves us with only 8 of the candidates that is suitable to be money. They are basically iridium, osmium, ruthenium, rhodium, palladium, platinum, silver and gold. All these are rare, but only silver and gold are sufficient in quantity to be suitable for the money supply. The others are extremely rare and too rare to be money. They are very difficult to extract as they have very high melting point. Our ancestors do not use gold just because they are shiny and beautiful like what the modern critics suggest. Gold has all the requisite physical characteristics needed to be money, such as scarcity, malleability, durability, inertness, and uniformity. Contrary to popular belief, gold is not an investment. It has no risk and no return. Just like Warren Buffett's popular criticism of gold, it has no return and no chance of compounding his wealth. And he's right, gold has no yield because it has no risk. If you buy an ounce of gold and keep it for 10 years, you are left with an ounce of gold. No more, no less. Of course, the dollar price of gold may radically change in 10 years, but that's a dollar problem, not a gold problem. Gold is not digital. Gold is a physical currency. As such, it protects us against the risks in which digital currencies are exposed to. For the most part, the dollar is a digital currency. You may have a few paper bills in your pocket, but it is very small relative to your needs. If I go to a grocery store, I may pull out a $20 bill, but a higher chance of me using my debit card. When you get your paycheck, it is probably deposited straight into your bank account. When you pay your bills, you probably use online banking. To sum things up, the amount of cash you use is relatively tiny to the volume of your economic transactions. Digital wealth is subjected to power outages, infrastructures, online theft, and hackers. What good is a billion-dollar portfolio if it can be wiped out overnight? What if the government shut down banks and reprogram ATMs such that you can only withdraw $300 for groceries and gas? The fact that you have $1 million in your bank is irrelevant. This is exactly what happened in Cyprus in the Eurozone in 2013 and Greece in 2015. Savers should have physical gold as insurance against bank freeze scenarios. So with all that being said, gold has its disadvantages too. The problem with gold is that it is not divisible. You cannot just break it down into smaller pieces to fund smaller purchases. And let's say your relative overseas is in trouble. You cannot just send over a gold bar to help them tide through that tough period.
Okay, now I'll touch on Bitcoin. Bitcoin solves this problem. It is divisible in small units. It is decentralized, secure, and transparent. The government will not be able to touch your asset in a cold wallet. I can send it to anywhere in the world with no government intervention. The supply is finite and limited to 21 million coins, and is a great store of value. However, Bitcoin does not serve well as a currency because it is too slow. So in conclusion, I want you guys to treat Bitcoin, gold, and fiat all as money, all interchangeable and valuable. Each of them has its own pros and cons. For example, the fiat currency is great as a medium of exchange. It's good to compute the cost, profit, and prices, but acts poorly as a store of value, tested throughout the history. Gold serves as a good form of wealth preservation. It retains its purchasing power throughout the test of time. But it is not divisible. It's hard to transport and send gold to other people. Bitcoin serves well as a store of value and the ability to transport others, but it doesn't do well as a currency. Different circumstances cause for different forms of money to be dominant, and in the next video, I will show you why Bitcoin is the future and how do you buy gold and Bitcoin in Singapore.
If you guys have stayed this far to the end of the video, we really want to thank you guys for your time and your patience. It really took us hours of reading, researching, filming, and editing to get this video up. We hope that it has been useful and that you guys have learned something today. If you like our content, do help us to click the like button on the video, as it will really help us with the algorithm. So do remember to subscribe and also to ring the notification bell. We hope to see you guys next week.